the number one show online in the interweb and the YouTube stellosphere. We are back. So I definitely, once you guys populate in here, let me know how me and Gaz's volume sounds and stuff like that, because it's totally new. As you can tell from my background, I'm no longer in a dungeon where the previous production was created. Vault 101 Studios has now been upgraded to Vault 102. So I could just start off before we get into High Plains Drifter. Hold on, I'm still Ross Cooper from the show. I guess that I could have been Ross Eastwood, but I'm Ross the Stranger now. I guess that reference can everybody go check out my show with Marty Andrade, author of Finding DB Cooper, legendary DB Cooper expert in the space. That was the DB Cooper Chronicles Volume 7, and it was a great show. It's the last show I did before the move. So I can also do the April schedule when you feel up to it, guys. First of all, shout outs to Gaz. Welcome back, brother.
Thank you, brother, as always. Ready to rock. And thank you, all of you, as well, whether you're joining us now or joining us later. Shout out to Darkside. What up, man?
Go subscribe to Mosh Shinobi. Some brief film news. Rest in peace to Val Kilmer.
Yeah,
absolute goat. Always too soon. What up, Darkside? Absolutely sucks. We still haven't even done anything from Gene Hackman, just because it's tough, guys. Once we lock in our schedule, I still want to get something for Hackman up, maybe French Connection or one of the classics, guys. I have tons of stuff I love from him, be it Behind Enemy Lines or Enemy of the State. I know you plenty of things that Hackman did out there, shot out in Europe. Definitely, we need to do something for Val. We need to figure out what that is. Top Gun 1 for Memorial Day would make sense. We did do Top Gun Maverick on the channel, so we could put it to a poll. If that's something you guys are interested. Do you want us to cover Top Gun 1 or maybe one of the other Val classics? It would be pretty hard to do Heat without Mac because he's a heister. So, but Mac, if we ever hear from you again, bud, we may have to do Heat. Did I miss anything? That obviously Val Kilmer, the Tron Ares trailer dropped today. So Gaz and I are going to be checking that out immediately after the show. We're both Tron fanboys. So I would argue maybe the only good IP that Disney ever owned, guys, but it's debate for probably another show.
Yeah.
At least that they haven't ruined, because the first one was
they've not broken it yet.
Yeah. And what a lot of that is just Jeff Bridges is so good that like he looks at like the final cut and like he probably just like knocks off anything he's not feeling. Just trying to think if there's anything else. Obviously, we got Havoc coming out end of the month, directed by Gareth Edmonds with Tom Hardy, and that's supposed to be a big deal. I did hear Taboo was renewed for a season 3. Did you watch? I think you were watching Taboo with me. Guys.
Yeah, I did. I haven't seen that for a long time.
Revolutionary.
So that's interesting. That was a good show. That
crazy. Yeah. So that, I think it's Tom Hardy and his dad that writes it, if I'm not mistaken. So that was just like an absolutely insane show. That's one that like I'm surprised that it got renewed for season 3 because it was so insane. I was like, hey, I like this, but the studio is actually like this. Yeah, I don't know what YouTube's doing. I'm pretty sure I set it for 2 p.m. Maybe that was my mistake, but I thought I had it scheduled right. I don't know what you saw on your end, guys. Sorry about that, Slippy. Welcome back, brother.
Welcome, Slip.
As soon as you figure out that PC thing there, bud, we'll try to get that membership gifted to you. Okay. I think that about does it. There's no. I guess I have one more final announcement. Let me take a sip of water. It's been allergy season. It's been really fun moving.
Yeah, it's always such a pleasant experience.
Always. You're welcome, brother. The Zodiac Files live show returns next Saturday. Myself and Dion Walker from New Zealand. Probably arguably my favorite researcher in the Zodiac space. He's also by far the most humble and is like the least like vocal. So it's going to be a sick show. He's the expert on the Zodiac FBI files. We're going to talk his one killer theory. We're going to talk my full circle theory, and probably just kind of go in on his findings from the FBI files. So that should be an absolutely sick show in terms of Zodiac Files. You're not big on the true crime, huh, Slip? It seems like you mostly come through from a Paradigm Review show, and that's why we love you here, because like you're the only one that doesn't like Gary Francis post me in the middle of a movie review. You know what I mean? And like just ask me obnoxious Zodiac questions. So please,
you're not on your own. You're not on your own, Slip. I'm with you, man.
yeah. It's literally just you two.
yeah.
Every other guy's like, so what's Ross talking about? Clint Eastwood? So like, Ross, where did Gary Francis Post live in the 60s? It's like, I'm talking about spaghetti westerns.
I've just realized how that sounded. It's like, isn't Gaz part of PXM with you? And he's like, yeah, we've all.
You're the film division, like, unless you know what I mean. You're the film animation TV series division. All right, so I'll draw. I'm gonna post this schedule after. Okay, apologies to Pixie. She threw down. I owe her one. We're still going to do Invasion USA for you picks.
Yeah.
I just pushed it back in the schedules. Obviously, I was moving. I didn't have any of the. I didn't have anything set up, so we essentially couldn't do the show. So sorry about that. We're going to do Invasion USA for Pixie. We're also going to do some bonuses to make up for the fact Gaz and I are going to be doing likely Avenging Force, Dudikoff, and then I'll also be doing my usual breakdown over on Patreon. So we're gonna make up with for the postpone with some bonus material. Next week, Desert Fiends. That's an official PXF co-signed horror comedy that I crowdfunded, directed by Sean Phillips. He's this pretty big deal in the indie horror scene. You can just look him up on IMDb. He's massive. His latest films have kind of blown up with Desert Fiends and Skate to Hell. They're filming Desert Fiends 2, I think, right now or next week. The campaign might still be open on Indiegogo. I'm not sure. The 19th is Bloodsport. So Gaz and I will be entering the Kumite, one of the most legendary. Saw some news about Jean-Claude Van Damme that I wasn't too pleased about. I don't know if you saw that headline, Gaz, but I won't be covering it here. I'll hit you with it off air.
Yeah, hit me up with that letter. It's not turning into the new Kickboxer, is it? I'm guessing something.
It's not film related. It's more something he may or may have not gotten in trouble for personal stuff. So, and again, me and Gaz don't cover it. You have to like really. Oh no, don't bother. Don't bother, Slip. I mean, you can just go watch my main series, the Zodiac Files.
I'm going to put this out as a teaser since you've seen it. We do have plans at some point, and it's scheduling because we're both insanely busy, to do more alternative history, paranormal, cryptids, all of that. We have been discussing it, working it behind the scenes, but we literally like focus on one thing first. We've gone the true crime and then the film. So we do have other areas that we are interested in, and you will see me and Ross, and hopefully we get someone on with us to do a show on those, so it's not always just me and Ross saying, oh yeah, so what do you think of Loch Ness?
No, actually, you know what I want to shout out real quick? It's I wouldn't say cryptid, but something. So I have a couple new shows over on Average Superstar TV with Lauren Lepre, PXF affiliate, writer director. I don't know if you caught this, Gaz, but did you see the thing that he did about the 1916 shark attack in Jersey?
No, I didn't, but I would be interested in that.
I'll send you. So this one kid, Mobile Instinct, took a boat through there and did like a really dope 15-20 minute deep dive, and then Lauren did like a 5 or 6 minute walk through around the shore. But that's the actual shark attacks that Jaws is based on.
Wow.
But it occurred in 1916, so it's way before. Yeah, but it's crazy. I won't go into it too deep here, but it's 3 attacks of sharks attacking humans on the Jersey kind of East Coast and around that time. Anyway, that kind of segued into what Gaz was saying about cryptids. It just reminded me of that shark attack. But hey, I know you've brought up Jaws, Slippy. So if you guys want us to cover Jaws and maybe do a little bit of that, actual, history of Lauren's, we can link Lauren's video and stuff. We're open to that too. The Kumite and Bloodsport, the 19th, Easter weekend. And then we have left that open for the 26th, Havoc. We're freaking pumped for that. Tom Hardy and Gareth Evans. So that's the schedule. I'll post it after the show. And if Gaz doesn't have anything else, then we can dive into High Plains Drift.
No, just what I've already shouted out. And we do have other films that we're looking at. We're constantly going back and forth, folks, with ideas for things for us to cover and other films as well. Believe me, it's a long list. And we get through it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, and again, that it kind of, I think what Gaz is saying is you can always hit us with, I
Yeah,
mean, either hit me on X or hit
yeah,
the comments or the live chat with ideas, and we do have some of your stuff coming up, Slippy, too. Like
yeah.
we've reorged the schedule like probably at least 2 or 3 times at this point, so certain things that we had on there kind of got bumped back.
I'm
But
going to shout this
hopefully,
out.
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, bro. I've cut you
You're
off.
good.
I'll wait.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Uh, Regarding Invasion USA, Pixie, we did find something out really interesting, that Avenging Force was written as a sequel to it, so that's even better. So we'll obviously do Invasion USA, then Avenging Force, with it being the same character, Matt Parker, I believe it is. So that's a really interesting fun fact there.
Which is even crazier because Gaz had selected Invasion USA for the
Yeah,
PRS schedule. I was already doing the Most Dangerous Game adaptations on
yeah,
Patreon, and Avenging Force is one of those. So it just worked out
yeah,
that Gaz had wanted to do Invasion USA, and then Avenging Force worked into the list I was in,
yeah.
which is like, that's like the craziest PRS PXF synchronicity you could pretty much have, but it's just kind of dope. So that is that. Yeah, and I know you mentioned this. I'll work on it, Slip. There's a lot going on, brother. Just moved, new job, working full time, and I take 2 graduate classes. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna do my best to appease everybody and make everybody happy and get you guys the type of content that you guys want. But
Yeah,
yeah,
we have tried things like that in the past, and it's I've got to be real with you here, folks. It's who we can get.
yeah,
This is as much as I can say. Myself and Ross were discussing about something related to a possible set of ninja movies that I haven't finished yet, of maybe reaching out for like something you just said, Slip. But it's sometimes it really is just who we can get or who gets back to us, and with scheduling as well, and that's really it.
100%. But yeah, we'll work on it. I mean, maybe we could start by reviewing Jaws and
Yeah,
covering that I think what's called, I think it's Matatan, New Jersey is the name of the town where it happened, and cover some of that. And then
yeah,
that's a cool way, like Gaz is saying, that's a cool way for us to like cover the horror movie that you guys like, and like
yeah.
get some of the real life history, inspiration. The man-eating sharks. It's kind of crazy. You know what I mean? I'm an East Coaster myself, from even farther north up there, but been on whale watches and all that kind of stuff. So definitely get bugged out by that. All right, let's do High Plains Drifter, 1973, Clint Eastwood. I was super impressed to know that Clint Eastwood directed this, guys. His
Yeah.
directorial debut, if I'm not mistaken. I just want to run the genres for you guys, just as always, because it's kind of surprising. Yeah, dude, Jaws is crazy. It's kind of surprising that what comes up, you think it's just like a standard Western or a period drama. So they have dark comedy, which, yeah, like Gaz said, there's some lines, but this would be the most insane dark comedy ever made. If that was actually a thing. I mean, sure, the dialogue, sure, but like just people getting blown apart with Western style firearms and just the ever loving crap whipped out of them is just,
Literally, yeah.
the comedic value was lost on some of those events.
Yeah.
Period drama, obviously. Psychological drama, which, yeah, I thought that was like a page out of Kurosawa, like I was telling you guys.
Mhm.
Drama, mystery. I mean, drama, yeah, because it's set in the past, but like also seemingly much less reliant on the drama than any of these westerns or action or mystery or elements. And obviously mystery and western. So it's almost like the synopsis is very close to like a fistful of dollars and a few dollars more.
Yeah.
A gunfighting stranger comes to the small settlement of Lago and is hired to bring the townsfolk together in an attempt to hold off 3 outlaws who are on their way. So yeah, it's try to show you guys the poster. Seems like my camera's doing a little bit better nowadays, now that I'm in this new spot with some light. So yeah, that's a sick poster, honestly. You know what, Gaz, like we both love Clint. He's a legend. He's a GOAT, all that stuff. Action superstar, blah, blah, blah. Western pioneer veteran. I thought his directing was the star of this movie. Like I was so impressed of how, like, people constantly compare it to how Mel Gibson stars and directs in Braveheart. You know, like it's usually a big deal when someone does that, just because it's like it's a lot of work, right? You know, like it's. I mean, you could make the argument that it's enough work to either star in a movie or direct in a movie without doing both of them simultaneously, which is seemingly a much more compounded, difficult task. And really, that started to show. I'll get your interpretation, but that for me, that started to show in the second and the third act, particularly basically that final scene where he did, and me and you will break it down later, is when he does like those split cuts between the characters, those split shots. That was amazing. I was just like, damn. I was like, that's his first time directing. I was like, dude, I mean, of course, like you're an action superstar, right? So by that point, he's been on like 60 movie sets. So it's like, it's not like he doesn't know how a camera works or how a film set works. But like we said, I mean, to put up your performance that good, even though Clint plays these like limited dialogue characters, which you could even say is a page out of the book of Samurai, a la John Wick 4, when they deleted, 80% of his dialogue. It gave it that Western kind of, samurai feel. But in other words, like Clint doesn't play these like dialogue heavy characters where he delivers 18-minute monologues and blah, blah, blah. Most of his acting is like physicality. What up, Greg? I forgot to mention that. So hopefully Greg Fernandez from the Gray Stage channel will join us for Bloodsport. And
yeah, definitely Greg. Definitely Greg. And what up, man?
Yeah, some other ideas for Bruce Lee as well. We'll have Bruce Lee coming up. And that's the thing. Yeah, it's like again, I'm just impressed that like his directing was so good. So yeah, that's what it was for me. And also in the pacing, in terms of the pacing, there's obviously that iconic first intro scene. I'm sure I can let Gaz take that away.
Thanks.
It was not that part. The barbershop is on YouTube. Yeah. Now, I mean, if you want me to take the cringe scene, I'll be happy to take the cringe.
We'll both do it. We'll both do it. It's a team effort, man.
Yeah, it's super cringy. So we'll get into that. Exactly. Bro says, I don't know where Pixie's at. And again, maybe if I messed up the scheduling, maybe she didn't know we were going off at this time, but it's all good. So yeah, pretty standard, guys. Like I thought this intro scene, it's very reminiscent of Sanjuro walking in Yokimbo. It's very reminiscent of The Man with No Name walking in and for a fistful of dollars. Was that your interpretation? I honestly, I think Gaz has seen more of these Clint westerns than I have. So
yeah, and you know what, man, it still works for me no matter how many times I see it, because I like the mystery. Immediately thinking, well, who is this stranger? Where they're from? What's the backstory? What is their reason for coming into this town? I like it when he's that shot of him riding through the town, and they're all nervous looking at the stranger. You see the exchange between Clint and the sheriff, one of the folks who works for the mining company. I would look at the character's name. There's a glance between them as well. And there really is that ode to those samurai movies and the movies he did with, let me just pronounce this correctly, hopefully, Sergio Leone. So you can tell he's learned that through starring on those films, the importance of emphasizing facial expressions, that exchange, 100%. those glances say so many words, really does, because so yeah, I really like that, and exactly, Ross, 100 with you. That's how I interpret it as well.
So I'm glad you brought that up. So I have a great point on that. So some of the criticism, like obviously when this thing drops, is like Clint's directing style is too Sergio Leone derivative, as Gaz said. That's a very slippery slope to start saying that you don't like Sergio Leone inspired directed American directors, because once you start saying that, all of a sudden you don't like Tarantino movies, you don't like Robert Rodriguez, you don't like John Carpenter. Those are all American Sergio Leone inspired directors. So I found that to be like, I think it was just the time. Now we're getting into the early 70s and Westerns have been out for 20 years now. Most of the spaghettis are done in the 50s and the 60s. But I found that peculiar, guys. It's always interesting to look at older to us movies, because obviously the 70s is not our generation, and look at what the movie critics criticism was at the time. They're like, oh, Clint Eastwood, who does this guy think he is? He's just doing a rip-off directing style of Sergio Leone. And it's like, well, yeah, obviously if you were the star in the spaghetti westerns and you come out here to make American westerns in California, as Gaz said when he did his breakdown there, you're obviously going to have the Sergio Leone influence, right? There's going to kind of be, and also, isn't that what your audience wants?
Yeah.
Isn't that a spaghetti Western audience? So,
yeah. Great point. Greg's just dropped a question, which you're going to come to in a moment. Great point, Ross, because John Wayne criticized the film's iconoclastic approach in a letter to Eastwood. I was reading about this earlier, and apparently what he said was that it isn't what the West was all about. This isn't the American people who settled this country. And I was thinking about that, and I thought it was rated R at the time. So was this like kind of a step up where you've got a really brutal Western? Because I mean, okay now, but back then, and I mean, it's still a good movie. I rate it highly.
Western for the time.
Yeah, and it's very brutal. I mean, it's all about this guy's path of vengeance, and I guess it's Greg's question: is he playing the man with no name character again? Yeah, and I think, and that's definitely, I guess, emphasized more with the supernatural element in the kind of homage and reimagine of High Plains Drifter with the movie Clint did, the only Western he did in the 80s, from what I read, Pale Rider, which is something, we'll look at for the future. So, yeah, for sure, definitely.
Yeah, 100%. And as Greg was saying, I mean, I think it's all one archetype, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's what we say. It's the Western stranger, the Western man with no name archetype, who is, I could actually go in a bit on that more because I have more like, who is the stranger? I could somewhat answer that question. There's no real answer, but I can give you what's out there in terms of, the mythos of the film and of the script. So, yeah, I mean, it sets it up fairly early on with Mordecai, and it's very reminiscent of the other ones we covered, as we said, with the kind of archetypes of the Western town people, right? You have like the innkeeper, the shopkeeper. I love the fact that it's a mining town. What, as Gaz said, what makes this and a lot of this stuff was lost on me, guys, because I was like on my phone in the first act and kind of ordering food and stuff. So I went back and like read plot, and there was definitely a few things. Things I missed, you know what I mean? Of things that are very integral, and I could fill in what those are, what they were. Kind of my pick, but maybe you put me onto this, guys.
Bit of both, I think. I think, and I've got to give Slip a nod with this because he mentioned those guys that run the Western YouTube channel, and I know we did a few Westerns. So me and Ross literally sat down one night, spitballing various classic Westerns we could look at, and believe me, there's a long list of them.
We still have probably 40.
Yeah. Again, we thought, let's pick some of these classics, and we were saying, oh yeah, man, we've seen this one, this has been on TV, haven't seen this for years or whatever, and that's literally pretty much how it came about. So I guess combination of us both, but Slip's inspiration as well, so I've got to give credit to Slip too.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's kind of like what I was saying, like Gaz was saying, introduction of the characters. I mean, I guess we're basically at the barber shop scene. I can take it away unless you want it, Gaz.
Yeah, I mean, before that, I mean, we could say, yes, he goes in the saloon, orders a bottle of beer, and the welcoming party walks in the saloon, and that's kind of where their first
lead up.
Exchanges, the lead up to Clint going into the barbershop.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So it's the three outlaws have been hired to protect the town. They're obviously, as you were saying, with John Wayne saying like this isn't the West, like I get it. Like they're two completely different characters. Like Wayne wants the cowboy to be the good guy that shows up in every town and saves everybody, right? But we know from Tombstone that's not what a cowboy is. There's differing, factions.
Even from history, if you read about it as well.
The gunslinger, Billy the Kid, all the Jesse James. Those guys are all bank robbers, and the top 20 gunfighters are basically criminals and train robbers. So to say that the crime element doesn't exist in the Old West, I'm not sure which history book John Wayne was reading. He's my man and everything. He far precedes me in the genre, but. As Gaz said, I think maybe a more grimy or realistic side. Like Gaz said, this is a hard R for the time, so it's a bit of a grindhouse Western.
It was heading that way with the Dirty Harry movies that followed, and you got all the Charles Bronson style Westerns, which we haven't even looked at, and then his movies later coming into Death Wish, which if Matt comes back, we could do that for you folks. So it was it was heading that way. It was the first signs of it heading that way, because then you would get the later war movies from the 70s going into the 80s as well. So very different probably to what he's used to.
Yeah, it's like the post-Civil War. And again, there's very different aspects. Like I'll have to look it up, but as far as like Jesse James and a lot of those guys, like we've probably never really seen like a super grimy epic. I mean, of course, like I just watched like Ned Kelly. That's obviously the Australian version.
Yeah.
So which is, you know, a super badass dude, you know, bare knuckle boxing champion, absolute badass. The barbershop scene is on YouTube. You guys can check it out. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it'll blow it for you or not. Like if you just go watch that scene, or maybe you're just better off watching the trailer if you don't want to like see actual spoilers. But this pretty much sets up like how badass this stranger character is. We pull up. So as Gaz said, a mysterious unnamed stranger rides out of the desert into the isolated mining town of Lago in the Old West. 3 gunmen hired to protect the town taunt and threaten him. He kills all 3 with little effort. So that's the barbershop scene. So he goes to get a cut. Those guys come in talking crap to him. They basically say they're either going to run him out or kill him. He shoots the dude through the through the barber sheet.
It's insane, man.
One of the best things I've ever seen. I'm going to have nightmares about that every time I'm in a barber shop for the rest of my life.
So fast, dude, as well.
A quick draw underneath the barber sheet. Like, I should have rewinded that because I was just like, whoa! I was like, what the hell just happened? And then obviously he just dusts the other guys. Like, I mean, you guys have seen him do it before in the other movies, but that one was like the fact that he's able to add those little nuances to every shootout. I'm like, Clint is the man.
It was the camera angle as well. The way the first guy drops and he's in the corner slouching, the shot between his head. You look at the way that was filmed for the time and the angle, man. And it really it's weird because it happens so fast, it's so quick, but yet the guy drops. It's almost as if it's kind of slow motion in a way as well because it's so fast. Because he lands there and he's like that in the corner, and and then the next thing the other 2 guys go, and that one goes out the window as well.
The hyper realism, like the way the body dropped, as said, like, you know, I wasn't born in the Old West, but like it looked real to me. It looked like how it would look if it happened. I want to shout out the special effects, Clint's production special effects, because I feel like at this point, you know, me and Gaz have watched some of the earlier ones, and like you could tell like what's still in development from a film production perspective. Like as Gaz said, the bullet holes, the way the blood dripped. It definitely was stepped up in terms of hyper realism. No cuts. No, like a lot of movies will, you know, have the pistol go off and they won't show you the actual shot. But like Gaz said, you see a bullet hole go right through a guy's forehead.
And that's emphasized on some other scenes, which will come to, particularly revolving around a flashback scene to Clint's character, the use of blood on that scene, and later. One of the bosses of the mining company as well. The blood is emphasized on his arm, which I thought was really well done for the time.
Absolutely, yeah. It's like 73. Like I'm always amazed, like as me and guys say, of like what can be done like back then with what they got, you know, live action special effects versus now. Okay, when the attractive blonde townsman Callie Travers flirtatiously insults him, he R-words her in a livery stable while the townspeople do nothing. This is the most uncomfortable cringe scene in the film. I don't know if we could use the R word because I don't know if we're teetering on demonetization with that. So we'll say it's a sexual assault scene. I don't think we're supposed to say that either. So we're just gonna work our way around this one. He forces himself upon the lady, and like the idea is like she gives in and starts to like it, I guess, which is by far the weirdest trope in this movie that they do carry on, unfortunately, through the first act story arc. And yeah, there's witnesses. He basically drags her in there. They do encounter each other later on. That pretty much sets up her retaliation later on. Whatever your interpretation of this vastly strange scene, guys.
It's strange right from the start because she bumps into him on purpose so that he engages in conversation with her by the shoulder, and then there's kind of a bit of a back and forth between them.
To insult him.
Yeah, and she's kind of this is a real difficult one for monetization to even express an opinion here on this. All I think we can say is there's a conversational exchange with them both insulting each other that leads up to this close encounters of an unwanted kind.
Yeah, well said.
And then she, yeah, as Ross said, gives into that unwanted liaison. And then that kind of sets up this weird sort of
Back
a
and
little
forth.
back and forth they have throughout the film. That's the only weird part of it. Was a bit.
Yeah. I think the idea is like, you know, it's interesting to me that Clint liked this script so much that he's like, oh, I love that character so much. I want to write and direct it, knowing it has that uncomfortability with the characters, like a bit like, you know, what we were saying about Dirty Harry, nonstop racist language, insulting his own, you know, fellow officers that literally work in the same office as him. I think that's where Tarantino gets a lot of this grindhouse stuff, because it's a bit of an early grindhouse element. It's like, he's cool to show up to the town and kill all the bad guys and liberate the town, but still force himself upon pretty much the lone woman who can't do anything. So he's not pure good, like you're about to say. Still
so
has flaws.
And that also that's kind of shown on the other character that he has an encounter with later, who is the wife of the hotel owner, played by Verna Bloom. She plays the character Sarah Belding, and she comments on this, what's happened. Her and Billy Curtis's character are probably the only two good characters in the entire town, as will be revealed, which is who the man with no name is. I guess those are the two characters he's only kind to in the film as well, which is revealed. But it just set up that as you. But I guess on the other side, as you said with Dirty Harry, at that time he's certainly not shying away from these uncomfortable concepts within the film. I guess I'm not being an apologist here at all. I'm just trying to kind of think from a filmmaker's perspective at that time, I guess. Yeah,
right. And again, as Gaz said, I think it's a bit of realism. You know, like these things did happen in the Old West. You know, and I think maybe that's what Wayne probably couldn't get around, is like he can't. You know, for him, things are probably good and evil, and it's very Shakespearean to have a character that
no gray areas,
mixture of both. You know what I mean? So. You know what I mean? That it's not traditional. It's not your your grandfather's cowboy. So that night in his hotel room, the stranger dreams of Jim Duncan, a U.S. Marshal being whipped to death by outlaws, Stacy Bridges and brothers Dan and Cole Carlin as Lagos citizens watch in silence. So the way that I didn't really gather that was his dream. Gaz and I can unpack the supernatural element maybe later on when we talk production, if you guys want, or we could just, kind of sprinkle it in wherever. Because this really relates to the mythos of the stranger, who is the stranger, right? In some ways it's insinuating that it's Jim Duncan, who's clearly dying in this sequence. So
and that is the closing shot of the film reinforces that. But before that, as you said, it's somewhat suggesting, which I thought was interesting. This, I guess, could possibly be mysterious spirit of vengeance that needs to find justice before it can rest. And that was very, very interesting.
That's my favorite element of the entire film. Like it's very easy, I will probably not to watch this ever again anytime soon because I won't have time, but I would highly suggest that you guys definitely rewatch it, because this is the type of Western that you're going to definitely pick up things, on the second and third watch that you probably missed on the first one. Like, I grasped some of where they were going with this, like Gaz said, but once I read pre-production notes, it really filled in a lot of the gaps for me. So, the next day, Callie shoots at the stranger while he's bathing, so she wants revenge for the barn incident, we'll say. And a ridiculous scene, guys. She just comes in blasting with a revolver. Stranger dunks into the tub, but he's also got his cigar. So when he reemerges, like he still has the wet cigar in his mouth. Like he held it there the whole time. This is where the dark comedy comes in, because like although she was trying to kill him for a serious crime, it's just one of those moments that's just like out of control.
And Billy Curtis throwing the water on her as well.
Yeah,
that was so.
Yeah, that the whole exchange is insane.
Yeah.
Ducking under the water, the stranger emerges uninjured. Lagos Town Council, needing to replace the 3 gunmen, offer the stranger anything he wants to protect the town from Bridges and the Carlins, who will soon be released from prison. It is gradually revealed that the townspeople hired the outlaws to murder Duncan when he discovered that the local gold mine was illegally dug on top of government-owned land and would have to be closed, destroying the town's livelihood. I completely missed that, guys. It was probably one of the parts I was eating tofu through. Did you pick that up?
I did, yeah. I did.
That's a sick element, too.
It is, because if you are watching this for the first time and you've missed any of these kind of nods that the town may not be as innocent as they appear, there's a reason why the man with no name is here. And then, of course, that's revealed, like, hey, there's a grimy past here. Was a grimy murder was committed. Where the man with no name, spoilers alert, was whipped to death as the whole town just looked on and didn't do anything. There's another flashback later in the film, which is when Billy Curtis is hiding. I think he's hiding under the hotel, and he's looking out. He's looking out into the dirt road, and then he has a flashback to what happened to Jim Duncan. And it shows you in the flashback of him hiding under the hotel. So it's only him and, as I've said, Sarah, the character Sarah Belding, who is the wife of the hotel owner. She did try to come out to help the man with no name, but her husband ushers her back in. So in that flashback, it kind of reveals like these are the only 2 innocent characters here.
Right,
and probably these are the only ones he's gonna spare.
Nice.
So yeah, definitely.
But it was Jim Duncan, right? You said it was
Jim Duncan, the marshal who.
I'll address why Gaz called him that. This is a question for you guys because I haven't seen Pale Rider. But do you have a preference of the 2?
Oh man,
is it too difficult? 50-50.
I'll answer this when we actually cover it. They're both on TV a lot. Pale Rider goes more on a supernatural element, which I do like, because it's like the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
That sounds epic. Yeah, what you told me sounded crazy.
Clint's character could arguably be death, literally. So I like that. I find things like that interesting. So I'm gonna lean more to Pale Rider, Greg, but High Plains Drift is probably a little grimier. My answer may change when we cover it, but I'll go with that for now. Question for both of you. Did High Plains Drifter create this subgenre, the supernatural Western? You know what I mean? I don't know if there's anything before it that... I don't know. I mean, you could say yes, but if there's something before it, I don't know if there is. Then maybe not, but at the moment, yeah.
You know what would work like a post-apocalyptic Western Crow?
Oh man, that would be so sick. We need something after that remake, man.
They don't have me involved in any of the production. Like, this guy just had a good idea. Bar him from the room. They have me outside, tied up in a straitjacket, with my mouth duct taped in case I actually say a good idea that might make it into the. Anyway, you guys know how me and Gaz feel about Hollywood. The townspeople then conspired to frame the outlaws for stealing gold as a means to avoid paying them, and they have vowed revenge. I remember when the stranger was like questioning that about like the gold nuggets being left behind. The stranger accepts the job and takes full advantage of the deal. He appoints downtrodden dwarf named Mordecai as both sheriff and mayor, provides a Native American and his children with the blankets and candy when the shopkeeper refuses to serve them. I remember that scene. I mean, it's a Western trope, but I still liked it. You know what I mean? Gets the new saddle and boots and forces the saloon to serve everybody free drinks. He later orders the hotel owners, Lewis and Sarah Belding, and all other guests to vacate the premises, leaving himself as its sole occupant. Callie and several men including Morgan Allen, decide to kill the stranger. After having sex with him in his room, obviously this scene is nuts, guys. Callie slips out as the men enter. As they unknowingly beat a dummy in the bed, the stranger tosses a stick of dynamite into the room, destroying most of the hotel, killing 2 men. He shoots 2 of his attackers dead outside as Morgan flees wounded. The stranger, it's another repeat of what we discussed earlier, but I just want to unpack that sequence real quick. So, like, when he threw the dynamite stick in there, I'm thinking, like, it's like a small wooden building and you're standing right outside it, like, and blow the whole place up. And it didn't really. Yeah, that's what you thought too, right? Like, it's a sick scene, but you're like, damn, that was definitely some risk involved for him to just like lob it over his shoulder, you know?
Yeah, really. Seriously, yeah, for sure. And then you do get that comic kind of side to it after, which you saw in a lot of action movies that would follow in later eras, where the guys are kind of like,
yeah. Oh yeah, no, that pretty much stuck forever. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, hell yeah. So yeah, like I kind of wanted to see how those guys died, though. Although you obviously knew they died from the dynamite explosion, but it would have been cool for them to like go full Grindhouse and like show the body parts like blasting out into the sky. You know what I mean?
Flying out the window and everything.
That's what I was looking for. I was like, dude, it's Clint's directing. Let's just go all in.
This is a perfect excuse for me to mention Invasion USA. So spoiler alert, folks. All I've got to say is literally at the end of Invasion USA, something like that happens. They don't shy away from it, which is both comical and grimy combined.
I can't
That's all
wait.
I'm gonna say.
I can't wait. You know, those moments are my favorite in the action genre. So back to uncomfortability. The stranger drags Sarah kicking and screaming into her bedroom, the only room in the hotel not damaged, where they have sex. The next morning, Sarah tells the stranger that Duncan cannot rest in peace because the town buried him in an unmarked grave. She then tells her husband that she has had enough of the town and leaving him in the town. So yeah, it's interesting how they come to like these weird interactions with the stranger having sex with these women, to like the immediate references of like Duncan's like agitated spirit, as Gaz was saying.
Yeah,
in terms of pacing.
Yeah, they do. When she after that scene, and she asks him, spoiler again, folks, and she asks him outright. This is the stranger, of course, Clint Eastwood. Have you heard of the name Jim Duncan? And I think he says, can't say I have. And I think in that moment, Ross, she knew who he was right there and then. Definitely did at the end of the film.
Yeah.
When he's leaving the town.
Yep.
And there's that glance.
I remember that one. Yeah, that was great.
But I think she did then. I think either she was, 90% she was at least thinking, look, I think this is who he is, because, I think that, like what you just said, she asks him if you believe, a spirit, Jim Duncan's lying in an unmarked grave, and if his spirit needs to, it's kind of alluding to this, come back and seek justice before it can rest. So again, that's hinting more at the supernatural element, which I liked. That part was good. But 100%. Did you think at that point that she knew he was Jim Duncan? Or
man, that's a great question. Because there's two interpretations of that, right? Like, she's just telling him because he's the new stranger, so he doesn't know, or she suspects that he is, and I think it's I think that's going back to like Kurosawa with the Rashomon thing, where it's like all these different versions of a story. It's not necessarily clear what the truth is. Like, the narrative is the narrative, so everybody comes away with kind of their own interpretation. A la Blade Runner, which I think is always the best. I've said it many times on Paradigm Review Show. The best film is one that's open to your interpretation, because you might have something different than like what Harrison Ford has in Blade Runner, what Ridley Scott has in Blade Runner. Therefore, the director, the star, and the audience have three different interpretations of the same film. That's what keeps the conversation going. Me and Gaz will tell you is like you can never end the deconstruction analysis. So I think it all hints in the direction that Gaz is leaning with that question, and I do have a bit more on where that's all going to end up. But I do think by far this is the best element in the film of this, the old Western trope of a guy. And what Greg was saying about The Crow, a spirit getting done wrong and being unable to rest without retribution. It's the oldest American revenge, theme, going in film, and you can track it much, much farther back to the old world, to Sicily, to Vendetta and the
Yeah,
Godfather. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
yeah. As well,
it's something that really gets carried over from Europe to America.
yeah.
Through the immigration. So what's that, guys?
I was just gonna say, yeah, it's a concept I think that people can always relate to because it could go back forever, and it's like that um, never-ending battle, good versus evil, um, spirit of vengeance to say cast out what could be evil or demons in a sense as well. If you want to go down the supernatural sense as well, so you can bring in concepts of faith as well. So many areas that people can relate to with it, which is good for filmmaking.
I agree. Yeah, touches upon all whatever religious
Yeah,
backgrounds or even cultural backgrounds, and
yeah.
whatever mythology. Like Gaz said, there's a lot of different ways you can go with that. The stranger assembles a group of citizens to defend the town and has them practice shooting, but soon realizes that none has the necessary skills to keep the townspeople busy. He orders every building in town painted blood red. He then rides out of the town without explanation, following the wounded Morgan. Before he leaves, he paints over the town sign with the single world hell. I mean, the whole welcome to hell theme is freaking like, I think, in my opinion, this is where the pace and the storytelling started turning over to like, okay, painting all the buildings red, you obviously know what that represents. Hell, as Gaz said, you obviously know that's the afterlife, that's evil, that's revenge. All these things I think kind of start working. When the three outlaws are released to prison, Gaz, a really interesting scene when that dude just opens the jail door, gives them their holsters and their guns and their hats, and they just walk out into the desert. No water, no resources, no money. You know what I mean? I just like the Old West is a crazy place, man. And then also the kind of crime spree that the outlaws go on their way back to Lago. They pop up on those dudes in that camp in the woods.
Yeah.
I really like the natural setting of that location. I started looking up the filming locations. It looks like it's Mono Lake, California, and some Nevada. Clint had his pick of 3 or 4 different sets, and he obviously chose Mono Lake. What up, Rick? Doing some westerns, brother? Yeah, it was. Well, so it's an American spaghetti western, so it doesn't have an director, but it has Clint Eastwood, who is the American goat that pretty much worked on all the spaghetti westerns. So
what up, Jim? What up, Rick?
So yeah, just that killing spree, guys, because we haven't done much dialogue when they walk up to the dude that's collecting the firewood, and he's like, "What the hell?" He's like, "You know better than to walk up to another man's camp." And then, they just start blasting. They chase that one dude down. That chase through the pines was sick. You know what I mean?
It reminded me of that western I watched recently, which sadly really did have the supernatural element in it, but it just wasn't really that good. And I think it was the Oregon Trail, possibly, and there was an opening scene kind of like that. It was really grimy, and it really set the film. I thought, oh man, this is going to be sick, and sadly, it just completely fell off. But yeah, that was really good scene for sure.
Yeah, it really built up those guys to they're just highwaymen, brigands. They're just coming across anybody and just kind of robbing them and killing them. So it does set up, although those guys are cliche villains, it does set them up as I don't want to say evil, but semi indifferent, and then obviously the opposing force to the stranger.
The whole thing though with painting the town red as well. There's a couple of things we can unpack with this. One, it's psychological warfare on the outlaws that are coming, so it's to terrify them. He's been doing, we forgot to mention this, he's been doing drills with the local townsfolk to prepare them to face these outlaws who are going to be released from prison. So get them better at handling pistols, rifles. There's that amusing scene with the thug who has the knife.
Yes, I was coming to that dialogue.
That's good as well, so I'll let you take that in a moment. But what I like about this, as I said, there's two things here. There's the psychological warfare side, as I mentioned, but also it shows that the man with no name, Clint's character, has been working this town. He's been playing. He knows full well they're going to unfold. Some of them are going to get shot by the outlaws. So that all ties in with his quest of vengeance. So it was really, really smart done. Kind of like you said, really makes you think of, Sanjiro, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, even, yeah, a lot of that stuff, absolutely. So a couple good sequences. They ride with the wagon and they have the dummy enemies riding on the back, and like Clint Eastwood, like rather excuse me, we keep referring to the actor. You guys all know who Clint Eastwood is. So the stranger quick draws, he headshots all three of the dummies, and they're like, damn, they're like, that was sick. They're like, can you do that every time? And Mordecai's is like, hell yeah, he could do that every time. It's just like 100% shot rate. It's like, dude, is an absolute beast. So while the stranger is overseeing the dry runs, the one dude, and I don't even remember which character that guy is, what business he was related to, but he was complaining to him about the business is getting shut down, getting everybody run out of town, and he's about to draw the knife on the stranger to knife him in the back, and stranger's drinking a bottle, or no, he has a beer.
Yeah, he has a beer, and he puts the tank out of beer down, doesn't he, on the.
So stranger hears him knife draw, and he's like, "You're gonna look awful stupid with that knife shoved up your." And he's like, then he quick draws the dummies, and then he's like. Stranger has his back to him the whole time. He's like, "Are you still here?" And he's like, "Oh no, sorry, I was just leaving."
Really Eagle-eye moment, and this has just gone into my head. Perhaps some of the chat will know this. That actor who plays that character, as you just mentioned, the thug who works for the mining company who drew the knife out.
Okay, the mining guy. That's what he was playing. The mine
is he the guy Clint boxes bare knuckle in those movies, Every Which Way But Loose or something? The one where he has the chimp with him. I'm sure that's the guy he faces off against and boxes.
Maybe I haven't. I don't know if I've even seen.
If someone knows, let us know. It just popped into my head.
That would be slipping. No, Jay. That would be Jay, because he just said Clint often used the same actors as movie. Did this movie have some of those? Jay, have you seen Every Way?
And my question, Jay, is it the guy? He's facing off against in one of the fights, and I think is it the first or second movie where he throws the fight and he kind of nods to the guy. I'm sure it's that actor. If it isn't,
so I do have a point, not on that character, but on who played Jim Duncan. You guys are going to find that as to what Gaz was saying about the stranger being the reincarnated Jim Duncan disturbed spirit. There is a relation to that, and the actor that plays Jim Duncan in the dream sequence. I guess I'll tell you guys when we get to production, because we're almost done. So we'll move along. So Stranger eventually leaves, and he goes up to the canyon, which is like preceding Lago. So the Stranger finds Bridges and the Carlins, who have just finished off Morgan, and harasses them with dynamite and rifle fire, leading the outlaws to believe the townspeople are responsible. That scene was awesome, Gaz, when he was kind of sniping at them over the ridges, and like just great directing again, like with them taking cover behind the rocks in the kind of what would we call that, like a chasm. I found that realistic as well, because obviously they couldn't hit him with him having the high ground, so they didn't play it up and just make it like, unrealistic.
The whole exchange, as I mentioned earlier, the use of blood and showing you the cuts. The
dude got his ear blown off.
Yeah, but before that, even the guy who's first encounters him on horseback, who's got his arm cut open from, is it from a whip? I remembered right.
I believe it is, yeah.
Yeah, he's got his arm cut open. He's diced pretty brutally for that time. It kind of doesn't show you the act, but it shows you, spoiler alert here, it shows you this kind of small branch stuck in this guy's throat, which is pretty brutal for that time. And then, as you said, the whole exchange, Clint sniping this guy's ear off as well, who's then, you've got a bit of this kind of dark comedy then, he's shouting, "Oh, my ear's been shot for me, he's been shot my ear off.
He shot my ear off." Those guys, like, man, like I said, their accents and everything are like cliche, but like they were so good at playing those three outlaws. You know what I mean? It didn't take away from the fact that it was like a trope.
Especially the guy playing Jeffrey Lewis, who plays Stacey Bridges. He was really good. And his response to the guy shouting at me, he's been shot off. He's like, "We'll get back down here." He could have shot your head off.
Well, it could have been your whole. That was the most like Western villain line ever. Like, we'll duck under because he could have shot your whole head off.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate that. I'll have to look it up
Yeah, this is a
after the
bit what
film, but
Gaz was
thanks,
saying
man.
about, you know, the
Yeah.
Western becoming the vigilante, the urban vigilante American Western films. Dynamite leading to the outlaws believe the townspeople responsible. Returning to the Lago, the stranger inspects the preparations. The entire town painted red, armed men on rooftops, picnic tables laden with food and drink, and a big welcome home, boys banner. Then he silently departs again. The outlaws arrive and easily overcome the poor resistance of the townspeople. Many defenders are killed, which the survivors are rounded up at the saloon after several buildings in town are set on fire. This is like an amazing sequence. Once you have like those on fire buildings in the background, it's like
Best
nothing
scene
you
in the
haven't
movie.
seen in a Western before. But
Yeah.
you know, I think those early critics were really not giving the credit Clint's directing deserved for the angles
Agreed.
I was pointing out earlier on. Because, and again, I think it's like you've already been a famous, you know, leading man star for how many years? So how much credit are the critics going to give you on your directing at this point, right? I feel like that's kind of what it is. They're like, oh, well, Clint, he always gets the leading man role. So, you know, he can't possibly be a good director on top of that, right? But he actually is. You know what I mean? Like
this whole, I'm going to say it like this, and we're going to sound like fanboys here. But if you took this third act, particularly from this scene, and just had it separate as a short film, even that would work because it just says so much about the man with no name, his motivations, what's happened. I've just destroying everything, professionalism now, getting a bit too excited. Ninja-like reflexes, damage your own microphone. Yay. Oh man, Celtic moment. But anyway, where was I? So yeah, we get the motivations
for the final sequence.
And, yeah, you get the motivations for the man with no name, the townsfolk, the outlaws, the way he gets justice, which we'll obviously get into. And there's a particular shot of Clint, you know, stood in front of one of the burning buildings. Ross, I absolutely love that scene because you have that dark, mysterious stranger figure stood there. And all the while this is happening, even right till the guy gets dusted, man. Stacy is who are you? Who are you? It's still driving him crazy. Who are you? You know, fantastic.
Yeah, no, and again, that is the best element. It was I'll say it like this. It was my favorite element in the film, as Gaz was saying. Because, you know, Gaz had told me the film was sick. Obviously, I love Clint. You guys saw us do the good, the bad, the ugly trilogy, most of it. But I didn't know anything about this kind of this supernatural element. The way he wrote in, you know, I gathered what they were doing because obviously me and Gaz have seen the other films, so you know, I picked it up. But the way they hammered it throughout the film, like it really worked, and the pacing is really good as well for a Western. You know what I mean? And I, like I said, I thought the pacing picked up quite a bit in the second and the third acts, and obviously culminated really well in the third act. You know, once he goes out to the canyon and stuff like that, there's really no filler. I mean, there's some transition dialogue, but everything kind of stays moving, you know, momentum wise. So when he's saying, I think like Gaz was saying, he's saying like, oh yeah, like, where is that guy? Like, I'm still looking. They're like, hey, what do you want to do? He's like, I'm still looking for that guy that shot me earlier. Like, where is he? Where is that guy? Right as he's saying it, Gaz, whip through the saloon door, wraps around the dude's neck, pulls him out the saloon door by his neck with the whip around his throat. Like, I don't know how difficult it was for them to get that done, but the way it looked was so realistic. Yeah, is it Courage Under Fire? Pretty dope. Are you talking about High Plains Drifter? So it's shot in Mono Lake, California. I could pull it up on production. It's not in Italy. It's not in Mexico. There might be some shots in Nevada, but I believe it's like 90% Nevada and Mono Lake, California. There you go. Yeah, you guys knew it as well. I thought the location was amazing. One of my favorite things is like this one location town of Lago. It really was reminiscent of like Tarantino trying to use that one building in Hateful Eight. We talked about that. Like, you know, Tarantino does a lot, like Reservoir Dogs, Hateful Eight, but I feel like it all comes from the spaghetti Western and the Clint stuff. You know, even we talked about it with those Kurosawas. They did a little bit of it. I mean, you know, he probably had no choice in the 50s because there wasn't millions of dollars to make films. So The stranger wraps a bullwhip around the neck of one of the Carlin brothers who's standing just inside the saloon doors, dragged him outside, and whips him to death. This scene right here, guys, that's what I was talking to you about earlier, the montage of the cutbacks, and then you mentioned this with the Sergio Leone-style character facial reactions.
Yeah.
Just the shadow of Clint's profile with the flaming building behind him, hat on, jacket, whipping the dude. He's he's getting them back for how they killed Jim Duncan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the juxtaposition of the Jim Duncan murder. A harrowing scene, very epic. Then kills the remaining outlaws one by one. Belding, aiming a shotgun at the stranger's back, is shot to death by Mordecai. I thought that was Mordecai's moment, guys. That was absolutely dope.
Yeah, he was good. Pixie. To be fair, we answered that earlier. It's been rescheduled. I've screened it. Ross is to screen it. I'll screen it again. We haven't forgotten. I did mention earlier, not to spoil it, but the end sequence. You know, the ending on Invasion USA, where you see parts and explosions, and that's as much as I can say. And that did whet Ross's appetite. So we haven't forgotten. Don't worry, it's still on the schedule, and we'll also be covering the sequel to it, but that's probably going to be a Patreon special, which is Avenging Force.
Well, I can answer that one for you, JY. Zodiac's fat ass wouldn't have lasted long in the Old West because it would have been 1,000 strangers and men with no name and Jesse James and Philly the Kids to blow his head off because he did something fruity. Got him! All right. Did you guys ever review old martial arts movies? That's all we do, brother. You got to go look back at the old catalog. That's what we do here. Welcome back.
Yeah.
Did I get the timing right when I booked it, Pixie? I don't know. And just run back at the beginning of the stream because we gave you the update. So we'll do Invasion end of June, but we're gonna add a couple extras on because I know you threw down. So yeah, no, I know. Listen, I'm the unreliable host. You know this.
Here's me trying to save us.
You know what channel we're on? Yeah. Oh, okay. Rick is just screwing with us. Yeah, we do new westerns, and I'd say we do new martial arts movies, but man, they just don't make them as frequently as they most do. The next morning, Sarah loads a wagon to head out of town. The stranger rides past Mordecai in the cemetery. Mordecai comments that he never did know the stranger's real name, to which the stranger replies, "Yes, you do." Mordecai's eyes widen. So I think that's your moment, Gaz. You know what I mean?
I think
Mordecai proved it.
And you get the shot of the tombstone as well. Rest in peace, Jim Duncan. Yep. I thought that was fantastic. And then the stranger riding off into the distance, we get the credits. It just ties into that supernatural element that, yes, this is Jim Duncan. And you could open it up to, will he now go and rest because he succeeded in getting his vengeance? Or did he somehow survive possibly and has come back? There's a couple of ways you could interpret it. Yeah.
As an agent of vengeance. Mordecai stands beside this tombstone he just finished engraving. Marshal Jim Duncan, rest in peace. After riding deeper in the desert, the stranger gradually vanishes into the heat waves. That's like how he came out of the heat waves in the beginning. Yeah. I do like that line. Mordecai meets him after the barbershop. Like it's like the foreshadowed line of that line, that exchange they just had. He's like, what do you say? I didn't get your name, or you didn't tell me your name. I didn't get your name. And stranger was like, yeah, I never said it.
Yeah. Mordecai
came full circle.
Mordecai has some good moments in this movie. I really like how he's lighting Clint's cigar in various scenes all of the time as well. Oh, yeah. And he's kind of like almost like Clint's right-hand man in many ways. That scene where part of kind of Clint's plan to, I'll say, take out the Stacy outlaw gang. I know that's not what they're called.
That will do.
Yeah, it's not really Stacy Bridges gang. Yeah,
there you go.
And the kind of Commissioner Timber from the hotel guy on his barn. It's got the dudes stripping him with the timber. That whole scene was hilarious. And of course, the hotel owner, he runs out there like, what you doing? Stop. And Clint it's like says to Mordecai, we still need some things, don't we? And it's like, yeah, we need 250 sheets of bed linen or something like that. You can go and get it. It's some of those comedic moments are hilarious.
Yeah.
What did you think, though? Let me ask you this. You know, the guy who is the supreme boss of the mining company, the one who Stacy shot, spoiler alert, folks, in the lake. So, do you feel his moment, his like kind of outing was a bit quick there? Would you have liked to have seen something a little more? I know I'm kind of clutching.
You know what? I actually really liked that because
Right.
everybody else, like you said, was just getting dusted off the rooftops and such. Like they were just getting shot without even pulling their triggers because they couldn't react in time to the outlaws. And I really liked his little montage there because he came out with his suitcase, right? So he was running away with the money. He was monetarily. Rick, why would you do this to me? Why would you even bring this up? You guys know what that movie did to me. I'm still recovering.
Rick, I sat there for weeks. This was literally my reaction whenever Ross mentioned the quarry, mate. I was just like that all the time.
I don't know if I put my flask in the fridge or the freezer, but you guys saw how the trailer review went. So, I mean, that says it all, doesn't it? But yeah, I actually really like that moment, Gaz, because he came out with a suitcase, which shows like he was like monetarily motivated. He was trying to run away with the money. Dude chased him down to the shore and then shot him in the chest, and he fell in the water. I thought that was one of the better death scenes.
And also they had
aesthetically.
And had that silent exchange as well. No words were spoken, but there was that glance between them, and then that guy dusts him. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Okay. So yeah, let's do production. Yeah, it's the first Western film that he both directed and starred in. So I was right. Directorial debut under a joint production from Malpauso and Universal. Original screenplay written by Ernest Tiedemann, who had won Best Screenplay Oscar for The French Connection. So there's your Gene Hackman connection there. Rest in peace. So you guys were asking about location in the comments. Universal wanted Eastwood to shoot the feature on its back lot, but Eastwood opted instead to film on location. I think that was the right choice, guys. You can weigh in on where you're at. After scouting locations alone in a pickup truck in Oregon, Nevada, and California, he settled on the highly photogenic Mono Lake area. Genius. Over 50 technicians and construction workers built an entire town, 14 houses, a church, a two-story hotel in 18 days using 150,000 feet of lumber. You know, Gaz was talking about the lumber scene there. Dude, just think about that. Like Eastwood driving around Oregon, Nevada, and California by himself in a pickup looking for filming locations. Like, do you guys think actors do that anymore? You know what I mean? They send like a bunch of like location scouts, like, I'll be in my trailer. You know what I mean? Yet Clint is driving around the American West in a pickup truck trying to look where to film his movie after the studio just offered him a lot to shoot on. I mean, I think that shows how much effort Clint was putting in to get it right, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And also the screenplay, and this is going to sound strange because it's coming from the non-true crime guy, but anyway, here we go. Strange things happen. Tidyman's screenplay for this as well, it was inspired by the real-life murder of Kitty Genovese in Queens in 1964, which eyewitnesses reportedly stood by and watched. So,
you know what's interesting about that, guys? Yeah. That's what the first scene of Boondock Saints is talking about when the priest is telling the Kitty Genovese. So ironically, you and I just reviewed a movie with Rick that had the Kitty Genovese reference in it, and now this screenplay is based. That's what I thought of when I read that too. I was like, dude, it's all like this series is tying stuff together in a way that I've never seen any movie series tie stuff together. Man, that would have been crazy. So that was that. Complete buildings rather than facades were built so Eastwood could shoot interior scenes of the site. Additional scenes were filmed at Reno, Nevada's Winnemucca Lake and California's Inyo National Forest. I bet you anything that was the campsite, guys, where they chased those dudes down in the woods. But I could be totally wrong. The film was completed in 6 weeks, 2 days ahead of schedule and under budget. Well, you know, that doesn't happen anymore. That was definitely Clint's directing there. Okay, this is it right here, guys. So Gaz's question about who is the stranger. who is the stranger and who is Jim Duncan, right? So this gives you a little insight on it. The character of Marshall Duncan was played by Buddy Van Horn, Eastwood's longtime stunt double, to suggest that he and the stranger could be in the same person. In an interview, Eastwood said that earlier versions of the script made the stranger the dead Marshall's brother. He favored a less explicit and more supernatural interpretation and excised the reference. The Italian, Spanish, French, and German dubbings restored it, whatever that means. I guess that's the brother thing. Who knows? It's just an allegory, Eastwood said, a speculation on what happens when they go ahead and kill the sheriff and somebody comes back and calls the town's conscience to bear. There's always retribution for your deeds. I mean, that's kind of what Gaz was asking me. The graveyard set featured in the film's final scene included tombstones inscribed Sergio Leone and Don Siegel as a humorous tribute to the two influential directors. So the two spaghetti western directors have graves in the graveyard. Pretty sick, guys.
That is interesting.
Little nod to spaghetti westerns there.
Yeah.
So sick. Yeah. So sick. Thank you, Crypt. Thank you, Crypt. I appreciate you. Hey, Rick, we just did a little blurb on the Boondock Saints 2 on Lauren the Priest channel, Average Superstar Films. I'll send you the link so you can check it out. But I know you wanted to come back and do BDS 2 with us. So I think probably what we'll do is have you, Lauren, me, and Gaz, and then we'll do the Four Horsemen for that for Boondock 2. Appreciate you, Jay.
All right, thanks, Jay. Catch you next time. Appreciate it, man. Have a good one.
Okay, what else do I got? The ghost story interpretation of the film favored by Eastwood is hinted at strongly throughout the movie, suggesting that the stranger may be the ghost of slain Federal Marshal Jim Duncan. Returning for vengeance and justice, the beginning and end of the film sees the stranger mysteriously emerge apparition-like as he rides into and out of Lago through a shimmering heat haze. So that's what Gaz was saying, right? Yeah. Upon arriving, the stranger has a lucid and graphic dream about Jim Duncan's death. Like, I'm just going to be honest, like, that sequence was amazing, but on my first watch, I didn't gather that that was his dream. Did you? I thought it was just a flashback. Did you pick up that it was his dream?
Not at first. I thought it was just a flashback.
Okay, and that's just 70s filmmaking. Like, it's not going to be as like clear today, where they like do like the Max when he's like transferring universes. You know what I mean? But anyway, it's cool. Like I said, you rewatch it and you pick it up.
But in that sequence, Ross, as we said, the use of blood. There was a good example of using that blood to show the injuries from the whippings. I thought at that time that was really good for its day.
Yeah, I agree too.
Rick's determined to get us.
He's like Pixie with the Gary Francis Post thing. They just vote all over me.
Rick, I'll put this out to you. Maybe me, you, and Ross, and forget Lauren on with this as well. Lauren on with us. Maybe we could do like a roast of the worst movies of 2025 or the worst movies we've seen, something like that. There you go. If that will help, and then we can revisit the Crow
therapeutic show.
Yeah, I know Ross is enthusiastic about
that. I mean, there's tons of ones I think are crap that I'll rip. You guys know that. That's what we do here. In which Duncan declares damnation upon the townspeople for not saving his life. The stranger's instructions that all buildings should be painted red and the town's name of Lago be replaced by a sign labeled Hell echoes Duncan's dying words that the residents would suffer in hell for failing to prevent his death. Meanwhile, after spending a night in a hotel together, Sarah Belding, this is what Gaz was talking. This is exactly what Gaz was asking me. After spending a night in a hotel bed together, Sarah Belding tells the stranger of her belief that Jim Duncan cannot rest in peace nor depart the physical realm because he's buried in an unmarked grave. Then, upon the stranger's final departure from the Lago, the dwarf Mordecai is seen tending to an unmarked grave. So he's inscribing the headstone of the unmarked grave. See, I missed that too. Absolutely, awesome. I mean, man, so many dope references. Just outstandingly epic. I think we'll go, Gaz, unless you have anything else. I think we'll go
the other thing is, and I think Greg, if I remembered, if it was you, Greg, who said earlier in the chat, if we look at Pale Rider, it actually made me want to, excuse me, folks, want to take a look at Pale Rider because that support, from what I remember, I think emphasizes more of the supernatural elements. So I thought, oh man, I'm getting flashbacks of my own to The Crow now, but Yeah, let's go into ratings. So I'm gonna have a
Yeah, guys, we're
breakdown
going to take
live.
this one home. I got things to do, but appreciate everybody coming through and joining us today. So we don't do Rotten Tomatoes, as Gaz called it, but we do IMDb. So High Plains Drifter, it has a 7.4 out of 10 on IMDb. I gave it an 8. And I gave it an 8 because I thought it was epic. So I love the supernatural theme. I love the Duncan's, tortured soul, back for vengeance. Of course, the Crow thing that Greg was talking about. The original Crow is awesome, Greg. Not so much on that remake.
Yeah.
We are probably going to have some Crow news for you guys soon in terms of independent production. Gaz knows I have a trip coming up next month to the East Coast. I don't know how much I'm supposed to say or not say. Just go join the Crow Days of Sodom group on Facebook, and you'll see some production stills. And I think there's going to be a trailer coming soon. Actually, there's a teaser on YouTube, but the Crow. Oh man, so I wanted to review the graphic novel, but I was doing those with Mac. Maybe Gaz will jump on it, or if anybody
I've got him. So
we could do the graphic novel by James O'Barr. And this independent production is going to be heavily reliant, much more faithful adaptation to the graphic novel, which neither of the Crow movies are. But it's called The Crow, and it has a few celebrity guests in it. Days of Sodom. Once there's a trailer, that's another PXF co-signed film. Once there's a trailer, I'll post it under the post section for you guys.
Well, even the Crow City of Angels, the second one, was so much better than that awful travesty of a remake.
The sets were epic. The aesthetic was dope, and he wasn't a bad actor either.
Yeah. Was it Vincent Perez? I think. Yeah. So I suppose I'd say that's the next best Crow film. I mean, and I have sat through and watched all the others.
Unfortunately, me and guys have done that. 3 Wicked Prayer was not my favorite. That was arguably still better than the new remake.
But High Plains Drifter, I'm with you. I'm at 8.5. Love the supernatural aspect. I found the point with, as I just said there, a spirit of vengeance, seeking justice, super interesting. The camera angles where it was shot, the griminess for that time as well, the nod to the spaghetti westerns and the samurai movies with the facial expressions, glances, close-ups.
The cutback.
Favorite shot of the film is probably Clint in the third act stood in front of that burning building. I thought that was just so good, man. His hat and everything is stood there, this mysterious stranger. And I think there's something, I always find characters like this interesting, the mysterious man or woman with no name, but particularly when it's a Western as well, that wandering cowboy, mysterious, where's he from? What's his quest here? There's just something so appealing about that.
Yeah, but it is a bit of a subgenre. The lone no-name stranger coming to the unknown town to break up the crime ring, which is super sick, super dope. Hopefully you guys check it out. Trailers are on YouTube. I actually, you know what? I haven't mentioned the film. I believe is free to watch on YouTube under YouTube Movies. I don't know if it has ads or not, but if you guys don't have any other way to watch it, definitely watch it there. Shout out everybody who came through: Greg, Rick, Pix, Slip,
Steve as well. Thanks, man.
Steve, Jay. Shout out to everybody who came through. Of course, you guys can hit the subscribe button, like, sub, share. You can click membership. You can pop over to the Patreon and join free with your Gmail. I will have some new stuff. Zodiac Files live show interview edition returns next weekend with my friend Dion Walker. It's going to be a banger. It's going to be epic. I know you guys have been probably waiting for the show. You guys know me. I don't just do the Facebook news or, just random, topics that don't mean anything. Like, we actually try to get a point across with each show of the Zodiac Files. So we have some insights to the FBI files that really no one has deep dived or talked about before. Should be interesting. Next week we're doing Desert Fiends. That is a PXF co-signed film that I'm a crowdfunder on, so check that out. The trailer's out on YouTube. Desert Fiends is probably on Sean Phillips' channel. I believe it's called Cool Duder. I think you guys are gonna like Desert Fiends. He goes hardcore on the gore. I know you saw the trailer, guys. He goes hardcore on the gore. He's got the funny slapstick dialogue, so it's not overly serious, but he goes hardcore on the horror and the Thank you, Greg. Appreciate you. He goes hardcore on the gore and the blood and the horror elements. So that's that. Then, like we said, Greg will join us for Bloodsport. Hopefully, we definitely have some Bruce Lee coming up. And then, Greg, if you want, you can let us know if you see Havoc with Tom Hardy, because that's supposed to be along the martial arts lines. So, and we'll definitely have Bruce Lee coming up. Dark Side as well. Shout out to her. And I think that's it for me, guys. Any final questions for me that aren't Gary Francis Post or the Crow remake related?
I've got one for you, because this happens in every show, and I know I've asked you before, and you've told me both on and off air, and because I have the mental memory. Yeah, who is this? Was it Gary Francis or whatever? I'm getting. Is this some?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, he's a dog shit. He's a dog shit Zodiac suspect. So basically, there's these. If you watch like my my DB Cooper episodes, there's that's the French graphic novel there. If you watch my DB Cooper episodes, there's this group called the Case Breakers, which is like a hilarious name. They claim to have.
Love the tone there.
No, you're gonna die. So the dude who wrote the book that leads the crew is called Thomas Colbert, and he actually did get a FOIA, which got like all of the DB Cooper files released. So he did have a major impact in that way. He also has a subpar suspect called what's his Rackstraw. Somebody help Robert Rackstraw. Rackstraw was 27 during the DB Cooper crime, Gaz, and DB Cooper was described as being 50. So Rackstraw is a bit way off from being DB Cooper. But anyway, those guys think because he's a Vietnam veteran that he's a great suspect. So they claim to. So apparently they're former FBI and former intelligence agents and former this and former that. That's real cool, guys. I really don't care what your credentials are. They claim to have, they claim to have solved DB Cooper, Zodiac, and Jimmy Hoffa. Now, the thing about DB Cooper, Zodiac, and Jimmy Hoffa is all three of those are like the most well-known unsolved American cold cases. If you hit the FBI up right now and ask them like what the status of like Zodiac is, they're going to tell you that like it's an ongoing investigation cold case, right? Like obviously when a crime is solved, everyone knows about it, right? Because the FBI makes an announcement. So these guys claim that Gary Francis Post is the Zodiac. He's some painter that apparently abused animals and led a crew of like these younger guys that he like influenced to be negative or whatever. And they come up with the reason that, I'll make a long story short, they come up with the reason that Gary Francis Post is the Zodiac because he killed Sherry Joe Bates. The only problem is Sherry Joe Bates is a 1966 Riverside crime that is 2 to 3 years before the actual Zodiac canon crimes, which are in San Francisco Bay Area. Basically, Riverside is like eastern LA. So it's like 8 hours south of the Zodiac activity, right? So they say Post is a painter that killed Sherry in Riverside, so he's the Zodiac. So that's great. So Kenneth Maines, who is, do you know who Ken Maines is? He's the Unsolved No More channel. He's like a former Marine, former cold case detective.
No idea.
He wrote a few books. He's a big true crime guy. He was on History Channel on the Zodiac, Hunting for the Zodiac. He goes and gets the DNA, and it turns out that Gary Francis Post doesn't match the killer of Sherry. So the case breakers didn't want Kenneth Maines to announce that, obviously. You know what I mean?
Because he's brought
so that's their whole thing. From what I see, Gary Francis Post is essentially like a random guy who is in his mid 40s who I think had military experience. People are going to expect me to know every fact about him. Honestly, when I just write off a suspect that's like, okay, that guy's definitely not the Zodiac, I stop looking into him. So I don't deep dive their lives like he was in the military from 1940 and a radio man. Like, I don't care. None of that matters when he's just a bad fit for Zodiac, right? So I also don't even think anyway. So Fox News and was it Newsmax and all those other like dim-witted news outlets. Colbert is like a media guy. He's a former TV guy. So he goes to them and they all announce that Gary Francis Post is a Zodiac. When they do that, the FBI, I'm talking about the official FBI Twitter, tweets like Zodiac is an unsolved cold case. You know what I mean? So the whole thing, you know what I mean? The whole thing is just like, yeah, dude. Right?
Funny thing, Greg, with that, it was me that reached out to that guy years and years ago about an interview on our old show long before YouTube. So yeah, interesting one for sure.
Yeah, no, me and Greg have other issues with Maines on other cases, but I mean, he's,
Yeah.
Maines covers. I mean, honestly, Greg, I was telling you how Maines thinks Cooper
But
is Richard McCoy. Richard McCoy is from North Carolina. Nobody said Cooper had a Southern accent. Richard McCoy had the skin on the bottom of his tongue removed, so he had a lisp.
well,
Like, none of that stuff was reported in the DB Cooper Norjack crime.
but I think this is going to be a problem that you're gonna just stating the obvious here. But look, I'm not a true crime.
I know where you're going with it. It's right.
Yeah, a true
Right is
crime
right.
guy at all. But I respect the work and everything you do. Of course, I'm more interested in ancient history, paranormal, UAPs, all that kind of thing, and music and film, blah blah blah. But with something like that, even in those scenes, you're always going to get people come in who are going to have their theory because they want to get that name or that reputation, no matter what.
Yeah,
even if it's not the right theory, they're not going to maybe go about the right ethics of doing it in the right way, because it's all about no. And then even if that, a good investigator, from my limited knowledge, if their theory or facts are proven like this is not the case, no pun intended, that it's something different, we'll retract that and say, like, we have to go down the new lines of investigation now because it wasn't that has been debunked, that has been proven wrong, that's not fact, blah blah blah.
So what, like what Gaz was saying, instead of fitting a square peg into a round hole, what you do with a suspect is you look for every reason why this suspect is eliminated, and you try to look for every single eliminating factor until you realize, like, okay, there's not that many. Now this guy's in play, right? But what all these people are doing is the opposite. So Colbert's a TV guy. He writes a book, The Last Master Outlaw, about Rackstraw being Cooper. Then he gets the Netflix documentary. So it becomes TV production. After a while, it becomes just business, and it becomes content. So it doesn't matter if you have the right suspect or not. Hey, I made a documentary. Hey, check out my book. Hey, doesn't Ross Geraci have a bunch of true crime books on it? Maybe he'll put it on this bookshelf, It just becomes a marketing
ratings and profit.
Yeah, it just becomes a marketing campaign. It doesn't matter, like, you know what I mean? And that's, anyway, I'm sure me and Dion will be addressing a lot of this in the Zodiac show.
So what time is that show going to be on next weekend? I know you'll post it, but just a reminder.
Good question, because I think me and you are doing Desert Fiends at 2, so I'll ask him if 4 works, and then I'll do a double header. Otherwise, we might, maybe me and you will start early with Fiends.
All right, gotcha, no problem.
Yeah, even Pixie knows this. I mean, the case breakers make Pixie look like fucking Dr. Watson. All right, guys. Well, I think that's it. We're gonna rock out High Plains Drifter. Check it out free on YouTube. Appreciate everybody who came through. Rick, Greg, Pix, Slip, Jay, Steve, Darkside, and join us for Desert Fiends. Check out the Desert Fiends trailer on YouTube, guys. I posted it under posts. I'm gonna post the April schedule. So next week, Desert Fiends, I'll post the link for Dion, and it should be sick. We're going to deep dive the FBI Zodiac files. Never before been done, at least, not on YouTube. Conor McGregor was at the BKFC Dubai this morning. I only got to see highlights, so I don't know about that. UFC is on Pixie. I'm going to try to catch Emmett's fight later, but the big card next week, Chandler and Patty, some really good fights. Okay, well, we'll keep that in mind, Pix. I'm sorry, but Desert Fiends will be available on Scamazon Slime, aka Amazon Prime, on Tuesday the 8th. I think you can pre-order it now. So Google Desert Fiends, and like I said, there's going to be a sequel. WrestleMania!
No. UFC, yes. WWE.
Yeah. Guys is still watching AEW. I know.
Well, sporadically, it's not much better. They're both appalling.
I saw that spike bat Moxley took to the back. A lot of people were complaining about that.
It was just like GCW, man. I mean, if you
are
into wrestling,
awesome, but people are saying he can't wrestle. You know how the purists are.
Literally in 30 minutes, y'all at 7 p.m. Eastern, MLW Battle Riot is streaming live for those that still follow the indies. But trust me, GCW, MLW, even NWA, so much better than WWE and AEW. AEW, Greg, I'm not with you. You might be laughing, bro, but if I have to pick out the two, it's better than WWE. WWE is terrible. I could literally eat a 6-course dinner before one of their strikes lands. The wrestling is appalling. It's terrible. Now AEW is not what it used to be. The guy can't book at all. He's oversaturated it with the same people over and over, so he's made it boring to watch. But at least some, not like it used to be, some of the wrestling is a bit better. But man, I much prefer, BKFC, UFC 1, which was on last night as well. Far better. This WWE propaganda, I'm going to put a PXM ban on it right now. So, no, all good, man. Like what you like, folks.
Rumor is Vince McMahon's supposed to start a new promotion. Cody is my man and everything, but I'm going for Cena on the heel run. Sorry, guys. Spoiler alert. This is
I can't watch that soap opera scripted crap.
This is new NWO for life, brother. I'm gonna wear my New World Order shirt next show. Desert Fiends.
Nick Gage. If I'm going to go Nick Gage.
Oh, Gage is the GOAT.
Man. Gage. Should buy him into WWE and kill the roster.
Okay, so real quick, since you guys brought this up, I did watch the Dark Side of the Ring Hell in the Cell episode. You should watch that one, guys. That was sick. The Mankind versus Undertaker. When Mankind
that legendary match they had. I've seen
when he fell off the top, he got knocked out for 42 seconds. And Terry Funk was like trying to revive him. And because they didn't want the show to stop, Terry looks at Taker and he's like, hit me. So then they just started like that scuffle just to keep the
back when
show
it was
going.
Good.
And then I forget Vader. I think Vader was the episode after Hell in a Cell. All right, guys, that'll do it. Wrestling, UFC, movies, westerns, High Plains Drifter. That's why you come here. Shout out to everybody. We are out. Desert Fiends next week. Go peep the trailer and go pre-order it or watch it on Amazon so you guys can review it with us next week. Thanks for coming through, guys. We're out. Hit me on X or hit us in the leave your recos in the description or there in live chat. We are out. Tune in next week. And Pixie, you run it back so we can say what we said about Invasion. We got you on that. All right, I'm out. Z-Files with Dion next Saturday. Desert Fiends next Saturday. We're out. Peace. Thank you, guys.
Peace, y'all. Peace.
New World